And in today's weather report, Planet Vegeta is expecting a massive cold front heading from outer space, which could lead to a bad day for any monkeys that just so happen to be on the surface. Hey folks, MasakoX here. Now, this story was something that came about from a lot of fan requests and intrigue. Granted, the basics for this story are quite unlikely, but if you're able to have a certain amount of variables go down in the right order, then you can at least begin to come up with a plan within the lore that is given around the time of the Planet of the Saiyans' destruction. In this, Bardock is given the chance to do what he did in the episode of Bardock Special, the only good thing about that special, to go Super Saiyan and become the legendary Super Saiyan of legend. So today, we're going to be finishing off this short story of what could happen had Bardock defeated Frieza when he came to destroy their planet after being spooked. In the last part, we followed up on what we started off with. Thanks to the collective support of the Saiyans backing up their legendary hero in the first part, they were able to overwhelm Frieza and his planet ball. With no time to counter and no time to transform into a stronger version, the Emperor was slowly become vaporized and the Empire began to crumble, thanks to the fact there was a vacuum left in his wake. However, if you think that once Frieza was gone, everything would be absolutely peachy, think again. There's still King Cold to deal with. With his business nous, as well as years worth of experience of being king prior to Frieza, he was able to cut off Planet Vegeta from the rest of the galaxy, as well as denying Saiyans their base desire of fighting, exploring, and conquest. Despite this, Bardock led his crew, and many other of his kind, to get stronger as quickly as possible in the time they had before Cold would inevitably choose to descend upon them. He was just letting them stew for a while longer than they expected. But now, having grown bored of waiting, Cold decided to use his connections and acquire Prince Vegeta as a bargaining chip, as well as, of course, having him witness the downfall of his own homeworld from up close just for jollies. With now 36 hours left to come up with some kind of a plan, Bardock's got it all to play for when it comes to his people. But yeah, Frieza being offed, not as simple of an outcome as you might have thought. Bardock was left pondering on his lonesome. As his crew were resting after a grueling training session in their medical pods, he was trying to figure out what to do. Was he strong enough to defeat the father of Frieza? Well, when it came down to it, it took the collective power of many Saiyans to stop Frieza, not just himself. He hadn't done it single-handedly. This time, he wouldn't have the same luxury of backup. He was going to be seeing King Cole on his own to either fight to his very last breath, talk his way out of destruction for his people, that'll be the day, or hopefully defeat this last obstacle before Vegeta could be considered truly free from tyranny and oversight. And whether it's the sun, the planet, or the king, yes. Then there was the matter of the prince to consider. How would he factor into this? Would he tone the line with him, in fact? I mean, sure, he was the legendary Super Saiyan of legend, but the royal family were famous for being so set in their ways. The fact that Bardock had come from a low-class lifestyle and background would make any cooperation with Prince Vegeta next to impossible. In the end, force would have to be the way to get the young one to comply, seemingly. A knock on the door was heard. It was Gine. She came to console her mate after a long day's worth of training, but Bardock wasn't happy to see her. Gine, what are you doing here? I came to see if you were okay. I thought I told you to leave. You need to go and find Kakarot's paw before Cold's goons do. I can't leave without you, Bardock. You're his father, and you should be there when we find him. Bardock held his head in his hands and groaned. You don't get it. I can't. I'm the only thing that stands between Cold and this planet's death. I can't leave. You don't care for your son's safety? Bardock, he's just an infant. He needs your power. I don't want you to get blown up, okay? He roared at her, looking at her for the first time. It obviously was something that he'd been kept bottling up to himself, but he now no longer couldn't. Gine she was astounded. He cared for her? Wow, he'd never said that before. Bardock. He turned back to the wall and resumed his cool composure. You heard. I won't say it again. At least, not until you get out of here and go look for a son. Raditz? If we get out of this in one piece, I'll summon him back to Vegeta. I understand it's not easy for you to admit such things. I appreciate it. Then, If this is the last time we see each other, may I rest with you before I go? Bardock thought about this for a moment, and then motioned his hand to his side, to which Guinea accepted. That night, Bardock stewed over what had been, and what was to come. But one thing was definitely for sure. He had to make for certain that his family were well away from here, and totally out of Cold's reach should things go south. With Guinea then sent packing on the lookout for their youngest, Bardock consulted with his crew to hear the latest about their gains after healing in the medical pods. The doctors attending the chambers were actually looking kinda grim, even though no one was no longer hurt.
We cannot sustain these pods for much longer, sir. Without additional supplies and materials, we'll be unable to operate them in a little under 72 hours. We need to be sparing with these machines from now on if we want to use them well.
Think about it this way. If things go wrong with Cold, 72 hours will sound like a luxury. I don't care what you have to do, just make them work! The doctors didn't quite get the dark humor, and so instead chose to resume their positions in front of their computer terminals and ignore Bardock. Meanwhile, Toma was feeling quite upbeat about his recovery, and he felt like he could hold his own in a battle. He was feeling quite optimistic. Why are you so happy, friend? King Cole's the strongest thing in the galaxy. You feel like you could take him on instead of me? No, Bardock. I wouldn't dream of stealing your thunder, but I thought of something while I was resting in the pod. Go on. Toma then began to pace around the medical unit as the others in their team were waking up and joining them. The force is weak, collectively. Collectively? Yeah, you know it yourself, Bardock. Frieza ensured that, and I feel that will ultimately be Cole's undoing. He wouldn't have realized what his son's been up to on the day-to-day. Most of his soldiers now are no more than 2,000 in battle power. Maybe 5,000, but that's rare. Dodoria and Zarbon were the far outliers, and, well, they're dead. Nobody else other than the Ginyu Force can. Bardock sighed. Oh, of course, the Ginyu Force. Why haven't they shown up yet? It's not like them. I don't know, but if father is like son, then I suspect it's due to arrogance. He thinks he won't need them. I only hope I'm right about that. Bardock thought about this, and he believed his second had a good point. From what he could gather about Cold from previous encounters and intel, as well as his brief conversation from earlier, Cold was far more arrogant than even Frieza. He was right to suspect this too. On Cold's ship, as it was speeding towards Planet Vegeta, he was feeling quite relaxed. To him, this was just a fairly simple and routine operation. No need to call the Ginyu Force on this. They had far more important things to attend to. He could just sort out this planet in minutes and go back to his regular affairs in no time. As he was sipping a glass of wine, the prince was stewing in the corner.
What's wrong, dear boy? Not feeling ready to witness your planet's downfall? Be grateful you will get to live after all of this. It's quite a luxury.
The prince chose silence over further crying. He didn't want to give the king the satisfaction of seeing him whimpering. Again.
Silence. I see. Well, that's better than childish wailing. Far less irritating. Very well. Continue to wallow in self-pity, I don't care.
He sipped a little more wine and smiled. He knew that he was going to annihilate that so-called Super Saiyan. Nothing could best his own power. He, the most superior being in the universe. They thought Frieza was bad news. Well, Cold would be the worst news they could ever expect to receive in their now numbered days. However, there was dissent brewing from Frieza's attendant. Kikono put in a call, just to be safe. With mere hours left before Cold arrived, the long-range scanners back on Planet Vegeta were going haywire. 5 pods were crashing through the planet's atmosphere at no warning. When visual was established, the guards were cowering with fear. It was the Ginyu Force. Bardock rushed to the scanner room and saw the report. He cursed said report. Well, Cold chose to soften us up then. That doesn't seem right. But no matter. I can deal with these clowns myself. Toma insisted on coming with him, and so too did his crew, because, they're loyal to him. Bardock knew they weren't going to take no for an answer, and so he told them that if they were to fall because of this, at least do so in solidarity and don't run away. This would be their biggest test yet. With the Ginyu Force now exiting their pods, they took in the scene. Ginyu was very curious as to why they had been sent here.
I didn't expect His Highness to rely on our help for this. This planet seems to be easy picking for us crew.
Jace retorted the captain's words. Right, these monkeys are child's play. Even Galdo could put him down in combat.
Hey, what's that supposed to mean?
Relax, fellas. This will be a piece of space cake. All we gotta do is take out as many Saiyans as possible, and we can go home for more interesting missions than this.
I couldn't agree any more, Berta, nodded Ginyu. This is not only easy for us, but it's almost insultingly easy. But I feel it'd be most satisfying. Despite the unorthodox nature of this task, I will ultimately not say no in tearing some Saiyans limb from limb. Very well. To business, gentlemen. Raccoon wonders whether they'll have seen us coming, Captain. Ginyu brushed this aside. I doubt that. From what our intel has told us, they've eschewed scouters. Our operators haven't heard a peep from this planet in months. Nope, we've caught them with their pants down. With that, they make their way to the central settlement, not suspecting that Bardock knew they were coming. Minutes later, Goldo told his men to stop, as their scouters were giving out huge readings coming their way. One power of about 75,000, and the rest of them no lower than 30,000. That's not good. In no time at all, Bardock laid eyes on Captain Ginyu and he smiled. Didn't expect to see you here, Ginyu. Nor did I expect to being here, Saiyan. My name is Bardock. Oh, so you're Bardock. Interesting. Well, I congratulate you for having such a high power level for a monkey, but the heinous trick you pulled on our former leader will not work on us. The Ginyu Force! They obviously did oppose in midair. But Bardock didn't have time for this. With no further thought, he powered up to Super Saiyan, and all 5 scouters of the Ginyu Force exploded in unison. Bardock's power of 3.75 million far eclipsed the capacities of these devices. In that split-second stun, the rest of Bardock's team descended upon the rest of the squad and began to pick them off. Bardock gut-punched Ginyu with all of his strength, and that was far too much for the captain to counter. Bardock's fist having gone straight through him, and his men too busy to help him. Ginyu and Bardock's eyes met, and the Super Saiyan smiled. What's the matter? Got nothing to say for once? Too bad. He activated a final spirit cannon with his fist still inside Ginyu, and got it mixed. Ginyu exploded, bits of him flying down to the planet below. Everyone stopped. The rest of the force left cowering with fear. The captain was gone in an instant, and the Saiyan not having broken a sweat. He looked at them and smirked. Who's next? The rest of the Ginyu Force had no answer. They fled. The Saiyans sighed and rebellion speared each of them, one by one, leaving nothing of them left. He powered down once they were all taken care of. He cursed at having to use this power right now, using up precious energy for the battle ahead, but this distraction had to be stopped quickly. Soon enough, after having rested as much as possible, Cold's ship had arrived. Bardock was summoned up to the orbiting craft, and sure enough, he went alone. Before he left though, he told the squad to sit tight and be ready for any sudden invasion from soldiers. Thanks to their powers being now roughly equivalent to Dodoria at least, they should be able to resist any bands of men that Cold could throw at them. With that in mind, the two forces met. Cold at first was very cordial.
Ah, hello, Bardock. Glad you could make it. Now, to business.
Is that it? Hissed Bardock. Not going to explain that stunt you pulled with the Ginyu Force? Cold's eyes contorted into a confused expression.
The Ginyu Force? I didn't order them to come here. I didn't think they were necessary. You have my word, Saiyan. I would not lie about such things.
Really? Well, we dealt with them anyway, so whoever ordered them to come here, big mistake. A yelp from behind Cold caused the Goliath monarch to turn backwards. Kikuno gulped.
Did you send my elite squadron to their doom without my permission?
Gold got up and towered over Kikuno. With barely a nod, he eviscerated Kikuno before calmly turning back to Bardock like he just picked up a piece of paper from the ground.
I do apologize for the interruption. I will not have insubordinate actions be carried out under my nose. So, resuming our business, what are we going to do with you and your planet?
Easy. You can leave us alone and never come back.
Oh, I'm afraid that's out of the question. You are forgetting the very fact that you killed my son in cold blood. That cannot be ignored. Something has to be done here.
As this posturing was going on, sure enough, thousands of soldiers were sent down to the planet's surface to pick off the Saiyans behind Bardock's back. Bardock was right. Their powers were tiny, and after most Saiyans had been training in their siege situation for many months, yeah, these Cold goons have got nothing, and they are just like pests, just swatted away. Cold, though, was blissfully unaware of this going down, instead choosing to focus on Bardock.
I wish to see this power of yours.
Huh?
You heard me. I want to see the legendary Super Saiyan up close that I've heard so much about. The fairy tale that supposedly ended my son's life. If you do this for me, I may hear out your little demands. Perhaps.
Bardock didn't want to power up so soon, but this could be an interesting opportunity. Cold was famous for being arrogant, believing himself to be the most superior being in the galaxy. Might he be overwhelmed just as easily as his son? Worth a try. Bardock, without a word, powered up into Super Saiyan. In the golden glow of this power, Cold clapped with mirth. And remember, he can't sense energy.
Wonderful! This is quite a fascinating and interesting looking power. Still though, if you were able to somehow hoodwink my son, you won't with me. For you see, I am far stronger than Frieza.
Bardock had done the same to Cold as he had done to Ginyu. Punch a hole clean through him.
What the... all the...
Bardock slipped his arm back out of the hole with a squelch he had made and looked at Cold with satisfaction. Pitiful. You underestimate my power, just like your son. It saddens me, Cold. After all these years, you didn't count on us Saiyans and our innate Saiyan power. We can get stronger with each battle, you know. And after that stunt your son pulled, we unlocked a whole new level of potential we never thought possible. You should have left us alone. Thanks to your curiosity and sheer arrogance, you doomed your entire empire. Cold was left coughing up blood, unable to rely on his ability to transform. He was too drained. Not that he would have done so now, thanks to his cockiness.
You annoying little worm! Oh, shit!
Bardock kicked Cold into the corner of the room like a rag doll, where he spotted Prince Vegeta scampering out of the way as the huge iceling came his way. As the king was spluttering and clutching his stomach, Bardock and Prince Vegeta walked up to the coiled up monarch. Cold looked up and begged for mercy in this compromised position. Sure, I'll give you mercy. The mercy of the fact that you won't have to live through any more of this pain. Prince Vegeta did not look away. He smiled evilly as Cold's life was taken in the midst of a fireball. Walls were sent tumbling as Cold's body flew hundreds of feet throughout the ship before coming to a rest, motionless. Bardock powered down and couldn't believe his luck. Was Cold really that stupidly assured of his own power? Oh, no matter. His stubbornness and pig-headedness had been his undoing. The prince turned to Bardock and looked serious.
You got lucky.
I know, kid. Very lucky. Power alone wouldn't have been enough here. It took cunning to beat this family down.
Kid, remember who you're talking to, subject. You're talking to the Prince of all Saiyans.
Bardock smiled. And remember who you're talking to, Prince. You're talking to the legendary Super Saiyan. Prince Vegeta looked up to him and chuckled.
I think we'll be getting along just fine. Now take me home. I'm sick of this place.
With that, they found Nappa and descended down to Planet Vegeta to allay the news before blowing up the ship that had tested their mettle. Now with King Cold down for the count as well, the Saiyans rejoiced in their victory, as well as having Prince Vegeta back on home soil. They could now at least rebuild their world and once again travel out to the stars in confidence. And now with Vegeta installed as the boy king, with Nappa as of course the Grand Vizier, Bardock then set about bringing back both Kakarot and Guinea from their pods, as well as recalling Raditz back to their homeworld. After many weeks of searching, he was able to find all of them and resume family life on Planet Vegeta. Kakarot would get his chance to travel out into space when he was a little older, more developed. And so, what would happen had Bardock defeated Frieza? Well, he would have won over his father too, thanks to the latter's sheer arrogance, and that's where we leave things. So what did you folks think? Did this story sound like a plausible one? How would you have handled this scenario yourself? Leave a comment below and let's get this discussion going. And I shall see you in the next video. Catch you later!